In One Piece, beneath the waves of grand adventure, lies something far more personal. Behind its fantastical world are deeply human struggles that drive motivation, forge identity, and even cultivate self-destructive behaviors. By diving into the motivational psychology of Usopp, we can unravel how the quiet scars of his childhood seep into the way he speaks, connects, and clings to others, forming bonds built on the fear of abandonment. Let's uncover the psychology of what makes One Piece the greatest story of all time. Usopp's early fulfillment of love and belonging and esteem needs appear to be weak and unstable. He claims to be proud of his father Usopp and often boasts that he is a brave warrior of the sea. Banchina, his mother, gently tries to prepare Usopp for the reality that Usopp is unlikely to return, introducing the idea that people pursuing their dreams may leave others behind. This message is reinforced by her own declining health, which limits her ability to provide consistent care. Although she offers emotional support, the combination of her illness and Usopp's absence creates an unstable environment where Usopp witnesses love and belonging being withdrawn in the face of worthlessness, making him fear that worth must be proven through usefulness or achievement. This fear ties rejection to the terror of being left behind for not being enough, a fear he later projects onto the abandonment of the going merry. Usopp's avenue for love and belonging collapses with the death of his mother. She was his only remaining source of emotional support, and her loss confirms his belief that people who are weak or unable to contribute are left behind. At the same time, he continues to face social alienation due to the villagers' stigma towards pirates. Although Kuro had his own motives for discrediting Usopp by calling him the son of a pirate and a disruptive influence, it's likely that this reflects a broader stigma Usopp faced from the other villagers, a stigma against pirates portrayed throughout One Piece. With no caregivers, no acceptance from his community, Usopp is left with no reliable source of belonging or esteem. Usopp interprets these events as confirmation of his fears that only those who are strong, capable, or useful are valued, and that weakness leads to abandonment. In response, he constructs a false persona, telling lies about pirate invasions and heroic exploits as a way to simulate self-esteem and fake connections with the villagers. These behaviors function as coping strategies to pseudo-satisfy his unmet need for love and belonging and esteem, allowing him to maintain a sense of worth despite underlying insecurity. During his early time with the Straw Hat Pirates, Usopp operates within a genuinely intrinsically supported environment. Though he lacks the sheer strength of his crewmates, Usopp's role on the ship allows him to express a high degree of autonomy. He takes initiative on numerous fronts, repairing the going merry, crafting weapons, and inventing tools. No one forces these tasks upon him. They are self-chosen and self-executed, grounded in his creativity and technical skills. Usopp also experiences a strong sense of competence. As a marksman, he provides strategic support during battles, and his contributions are meaningful and acknowledged by the crew. In terms of relatedness, Usopp finds deep emotional connections aboard the Going Merry. He bonds closely with his crewmates and gains their respect. The ship itself becomes a powerful symbol of home, nostalgia, and attachment, tied to his origins in Syrup Village and his connection to Kaya, who gifted them the vessel. Within this environment, Usopp is free, competent, and emotionally connected to others, hallmarks of a well-supported, intrinsic motivational structure. Usopp's attachment to the Going Merry becomes the core external regulator, tethering him to the crew. His behavior to protect and be emotionally attached to the ship becomes fully integrated into his identity. At first, Usopp maintains the Going Merry because it helps provide safe passage along the Grand Line. He acts in accordance with external expectations. If the ship is ruined, it becomes detrimental toward their journey. Over time, Usopp internalizes this responsibility. When the ship is damaged, he feels guilty, as if the ship's condition reflects his personal worth and failure. He begins to shoulder blame for the ship's deterioration, regardless of whether it's truly within his control. As the crew travels together, Usopp begins to see value in the ship beyond its physical role. He considers the Going Merry part of the crew, not just property. This behavior parallels his earlier actions towards his mother, rooted in the belief that it was his responsibility to remain behind and protect her. Eventually, Usopp fully integrates this behavior into his identity. He no longer simply values the ship, he believes it is his personal duty to protect it. He sees himself as the one who must defend the Going Merry if others abandon it. His connection to the ship becomes inseparable from his identity, and by extension, from his place within the crew. Usopp's motivational structure begins to disintegrate in the events leading up to Water 7's pivotal chapter, the Big Argument. The Straw Hat crew determines that the Going Merry is beyond repair and must be replaced. This decision, spearheaded by Luffy, is experienced by Usopp as a profound betrayal, not only of the ship, but of his values and voice within the crew. Luffy's decision to replace the ship undermines Usopp's sense of autonomy. Though he is a member of the crew, his voice holds no weight in the final call. He has no meaningful control over a matter that is central to his role and identity, causing him to feel silenced and powerless. Usopp's competence is also shattered. The 200 million berries he was entrusted with are stolen by the Frankie family, and he is utterly defeated in battle. These events reinforce the idea that he is weak and unfit to contribute. If he cannot protect the ship, defend the crew's assets, or influence important decisions, what role does he truly serve? Finally, Usopp's relatedness comes under threat. The Going Merry is his connection to Kaya and his hometown. If it is discarded, so too is that emotional tether. Moreover, the decision to replace the ship creates a rift between him and the crewmates he once trusted and loved. He begins to feel emotionally disconnected from the group, believing that they no longer share his values or acknowledge what matters most to him. With the collapse of an intrinsic environment and the removal of the external regulator, the Going Merry, Usopp enters a state of amotivation, specifically strategy beliefs, skepticism that the behavior will lead to desired outcomes. He realizes that he has no meaningful control, his efforts do not lead to valued outcomes, and his emotional ties to the crew have been compromised. The very thing that once motivated him to stay, the desire to preserve the ship and what it represents, has been dismissed by the crew. This reveals that Usopp's behavior to protect the Going Merry had become so deeply integrated into his identity that after losing his sense of autonomy, competence, and relatedness, he chooses not to let go of the ship, but of the crew. What began as an externally regulated behavior evolved into something far more personal, tied to his unmet need for love and belonging. Usopp's departure is not simply a dramatic plot point. It is the natural consequence of a motivational system collapsing under the weight of lost autonomy, shattered competence, and threatened relatedness. Only by confronting these losses, and eventually reconstructing a new identity within the crew, can he rejoin later, this time with greater psychological strength and self-determination. Usopp's emotional development in One Piece is marked by his gradual disillusionment with two key neurotic satisfiers: his habitual lying, employed to manage chronic deficits in self-esteem, and an anxious attachment style, which compensates for a deep-seated fear of abandonment and a longing for love and belonging. Initially adaptive in helping him survive and function socially, these strategies begin to lose utility as they come into conflict with Usopp's broader developmental goal, to become a brave warrior of the sea. Over the course of Water 7 and Enies Lobby arcs, Usopp experiences two key turning points that illustrate his growing dissatisfaction with these once reliable defenses. The first major break in Usopp's coping emerges during the farewell to the Going Merry. Having long projected his emotional need for love and belonging onto the ship, Usopp initially resists the crew's decision to part with it. However, in the moments leading up to and during the Merry's sea cremation, Usopp is able to fully confront the loss, grieve it, and ultimately accept it. This moment marks a profound turning point for Usopp, not just in how he understands attachment, but in how he comes to see the lasting value of love, even in its impermanence. He learns that letting go of something we love doesn't erase the bond we shared or render it meaningless. When the Going Merry speaks to the Straw Hats, assuring them that it was truly happy, it affirms that their connection was real, necessary, and deeply mutual. By grieving, Usopp begins to internalize a more secure sense of love, one that honors the past without being trapped by it, allowing both memory and growth. The second moment of dissatisfaction comes shortly after, when Luffy and the Straw Hats are preparing to depart Water 7. Usopp, having left the crew, struggles with how to return. As Luffy prepares to leave without him, Usopp finally drops all pretense. He shouts out a raw and unguarded apology, publicly admitting his fault and asking to be allowed back. In this act, Usopp discards lying as a tool to preserve his self-image. The emotional risk of vulnerability becomes preferable to the isolation brought on by dishonesty. This is a critical developmental shift. Usopp accepts that esteem and self-worth cannot be sustained through fantasy or avoidance, but must be grounded in truth. Together, these two moments demonstrate Usopp's deepening recognition that his previous coping mechanisms no longer satisfy his needs or his goals. His anxious attachment, once a way to secure emotional stability, now inhibits his ability to adapt and move forward. His lying, once a buffer against shame and inadequacy, now obstructs his relationships. By confronting and releasing these pseudo-satisfiers, Usopp grows closer to self-actualization, becoming a brave warrior of the sea. In One Piece, beneath the waves of grand adventure lies something far more personal. Behind its fantastical world are deeply human struggles that drive motivation, forge identity, and even cultivate self-destructive behaviors. By diving into the motivational psychology of Sanji, we can unravel how the scars of neglect, loss, and hunger shaped a man who masks his pain with kindness and yet finds himself withdrawing from his crew in moments of crisis, repeating the same cycle of abandonment that once defined his childhood. Until next time, keep sailing the seas of self-discovery, one chapter at a time.